Okay, I'll just put Furby to sleep. He's wonderful.
Yippee!
Yes, you are, but I'll put you to sleep now because
No.
there you go. There you go.
Ahí no nada.
It's a big part of having a Furby is having a sleep mask. There he goes. Okay, now.
Shoo, 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 shoo.
There he goes. Right, well, welcome. My name's Rob Miles. I'm going to talk to you about exploring connectivity with a farting toy. But first, a few messages from our sponsors. Welcome to the event. I think I'm going to call myself the keynote because I'm first in. Why not? Anyway, 12th of December, 9 o'clock, it's me. Welcome. There are rules to these things because we have to be mindful of everybody else. So yeah, please be aware of others, friendly and patient, welcome and respectful. Nothing on the chats of any contentious nature, and be kind and considerate. Actually, just basically be a decent fellow or fellow-ess. Either works. So yeah, do all that. That's nice. Donate nationally. This is, if we don't keep people like these guys in business, we won't know how we got to our multi-core processors with their oodles of memory and all that kind of wonderful stuff. So please, if you can, give a bit. If you've saved a bit on hotel bills and travel, so funnel a bit of that into the National Museum, please, because it's a nice thing to do, and they're all good people, and we need to keep track of this stuff. We need to know where we came from. We need to know about core memory. Core memory. Not funny. Moving on. So yes, sponsors, thank you to all these lovely people for making it possible. It still is, just because it's free to come to doesn't mean to say it's free to set up. So all these people help make it work, and that's wonderful. And thank you very much to all of them. And yeah, if you're tweeting, there are official hashtags of DDD. That's Perfect Vision 2020. Very good, Rob. Developer Day, and enjoy it. It's meant to be fun. Dip in and out, look at things, and then I think it's all being recorded, so you better find it all on YouTube. And so you can, that's your next viewing for the next 3 weeks or so. Anyway, do all that. And hello from me again. My name's Rob Miles, robmiles.com, exploring connectivity with a farting toy. What could possibly be better? So yeah, what you're going to get is a bit about me, a bit about the Furby, why you would want one, the Blue Fluff project, the ESP32, what I've made and how you can use it, getting the weather with Furby and MQTT, and then at the end, a summary. And then I'm off for coffee and a tea cake, because that's what we do on a Saturday, because we know how to live up here in Hull. Oh, yes. So yeah, that's me. I taught computer science at the university for many years. I was in charge of twisting minds and crushing dreams. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I blog at robmiles.com. It's a little bit out of date. I tweet at Rob Miles. I cannot tie a tie properly. That's bugged me. Lovely picture. Can you use Photoshop? I guess I could move it around. And I write books. So let's have a, here you go, shameless book plug. Begin to Code with C#. You can buy it on Amazon. You can get it free from a website in China somewhere, but I'm not telling you where. If you want to learn, yeah, look at that. 5 stars from 1 customer review. Thanks, Mum. Wonderful work. This one, the Python one, the family all chipped in, which was nice of them, but they weren't quite so generous. So that's 6 reviews there. There's a new one coming out next year. I've just finished writing it and coloring in all the pictures, and that's going to be all about JavaScript. And it turns out that I really like JavaScript, and who knew? I'm actually podcasting that one. I'm up to about chapter 8. If you want to hear me reading the book out before it's even been printed, yes, I am that good. Go to robmiles.com/jspodcast, and you can hear my dulcet tones. Yes, I have dulcet tones on there. I'm trying to figure out how to make a book interesting by reading it out. And I may have succeeded, I may have failed. I'll let you judge. Okay, so let's get back to business. What is a Furby, and why you should buy? It's been like a little Furby craze in Hull. I've been showing people my Furby and they're all going, oh, I want one of those. It's a little toy. It came out in 1998, over 20 years ago, and they sold 40 million in the first 3 years of production, which is quite impressive. It had a microcontroller inside, which was advanced at the time, and it pretended to learn English. It has this language called Furbish, which it speaks, and over time, the amount of English words starts to increase, and they spread about this myth that actually it's learning English from you speaking to it. This was designed for 5-year-olds. But it also filled the US Department of Defense, who banned Furbies from their sites in case the Furby heard anything confidential and learnt it. Now, it's almost an urban myth, but it did actually happen. Now, the first Furby just had a very small number of actions and sensors. It was quite, for the time, very advanced, but today, a bit meh. Later ones came up with voice recognition and LCD panels for the eyes. And 4 years ago, Hasbro released the Furby Connect, which uses Bluetooth BLE to talk to an app. So this guy here is connected, and he can talk to other Furbies. The first one had a 6502 program. Remember the 6502? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. BBC Micro, Acorn Atom, even the first NES had a 6502 in it, and I think the second one as well. 80K of ROM, and 128 bytes of RAM. Whoop-de-doo. And it had this amazing cam-driven thing. You can see it here, which actually controlled the movement of the head and everything else. And that's got a single motor, an optical sensor. It's very clever, and it works extremely well. And it means the Furby can do lots of things. Later versions have exactly the same movement inside with a few more actions, but way more processing power. And as you can see here, that's the CPU board, and there's the little two LCD panels, which are the eyes. This shiny bit here is the capacitive touch sensors. Those are the lenses for the eyes. I had two broken Furbies, and I used them to make one mended Furby, who is this guy here, from whom more in a minute or two. It's quite, yeah. If you want to, you can pick one up for about 20 quid on eBay. And I think you should, because they're actually quite hilarious. Broken ones are almost free, and you can repair them if you've got two, and you can make them. Well, I managed it. That's what this guy's for. If you buy one with a Furby Connect sleep mask. It has to have a Furby, have a Bluetooth tag on his bottom, which is that bit there. It says Bluetooth on it. Make sure he's got that, and make sure that he's got the sleep mask, because otherwise you can't make him go to sleep and he won't shut up, and that can be irritating. They're actually really fun, and they talk to each other. Watch, this is them. I love this. Here we go. If you get two, they talk. They synchronize, and they just go on like this for a while, and they have conversations. And I don't know why Hasbro did this. I don't know whether they were planning on selling a large number of them and having folk have Furby parties, but they're actually, they go on. It goes on for a while. So maybe I should stop it now and move on to the next slide. So they're quite nice to have, and they have a range of things they do. Stop, please stop. That's it. So we've got this thing. It's got BLE, which is Bluetooth low energy, and it's kind of fun, and it's powered. And somebody out there thought, oh, I'm going to figure out how to hack this thing and do things with it, because Bluetooth is inherently open. You can pick the message up with anything, and I'll show you about that a bit later. So there's a thing called the Blue Fluff project. It's on GitHub, and someone has taken the time to sit down with a Furby and figure out how it all works. And if you want to, you can put him into debug mode, which is this stuff here appearing on his screen and whizzing past his eyes, which is a bit scary. But you can even download new behaviors in there and give it new pictures on the eyes and different sounds and things. I'm not doing any of that, because that might involve breaking the Furby. All my stuff is non-invasive remote control stuff. If you want to do this, you can do, but not from the embedded device that I'm using. I'm just using it to send messages and get messages back. It's an endpoint for me, nothing else. Okay, does that make sense? I'll keep moving. So yeah, if you go to GitHub, if you go to https://github.com /bluefluff, then this is actually huge tables. And as you can see, I'll tell you what, I'll fire him up and put the Furby cam on. So there we go. This is, I'll wake him up and I'll turn on the Furby cam. And he wakes up, and you can see this little motor inside moving.
Oh, there you are.
Hello.
Hello, Utai.
That's Furbish for good morning. And now he'll sit there and go into one of his. There you go.
Take it easy.
Good for you. He likes to fart a lot. If you pull his tail. Yeah.
Nunu. Wait for it. Wait for it. Silent but deadly. Nola canola, eat a Furberini.
I quite like him. Your mileage may vary, but if I keep pulling his tail, he'll keep...
Wait, hold on. Tasty.
Yeah, kids like disgusting stuff, and so do I. That's all good. But there's a whole... I'll put you back to sleep again. Lovely though you are. And we'll crack on. Thank you. There's a whole table of stuff. Motorboat parts 1, 2, and 3. Sounds like a concept album, but actually it's quite fun. You send these messages as streams of bytes, 19003, and you have to sequence them. There's a protocol where the Furby will say, "I've finished saying that, send me another message," and you can actually code that up and make it behave that way if you want. So you can take total control of all the things you can do, and you can add new behaviors, but I'm not going to get into that because it's a bit too complicated. Now, if you go onto the Bluefluff site on GitHub, then yep, there's a whole bunch of JavaScript, which is lovely, and you can control it through your PC with Bluetooth on there, and it works quite nicely. But I didn't want to do that because I wanted to use a small embedded device instead. I wanted to use a microcontroller because then I can sort of have a much more I can use it much neater, more pleasing. And I wanted to see how easy it is to do Bluetooth on a small embedded device, because when I was a young lad and Bluetooth first came out, it was horrible. And writing Bluetooth code was really unpleasant and very hard work. And so I didn't do it. So I thought I'd try it again now, see if it's got easier. Turns out it has. So we'll do that in a minute or two. But before that, a quick plug for this guy, the ESP32. This is a Fire Beetle, which is a special one. This one has a socket for a battery, as you can see on the top, and it also has very low power mode. It turns off its USB interface and it can run at microamps, can this guy. So it's very useful for embedded stuff with batteries in. 2 cores for the price of a pint. Yep, you can pick them up, £2.57. I found them on AliExpress with delivery. I think it was about 65 pence. I've hidden that bit, but you can pick these up. They're clocked at 240 megahertz. They're dual core. They've got 520k of RAM, 8 megabytes or 4 megabytes of flash on the device. They do Wi-Fi, including SSL, so you can talk to secure sockets-based devices. They do Bluetooth BLE, and they are, as I mentioned, they are cheap. You should play with these. They are awesome fun, and you can write. You can write C++, you can write JavaScript-ish stuff, you can write Python. There's a thing called Flow, which is a nice sort of blocky-based thing that also works as Python. And the device I've used is called the M5 Stick. It's not brown or sticky, but it's called the Stick. Attempt to tumour, miss. He shoots, he misses. But the M5 Stick's a good one, about 13 quid. It's nicely packaged, and it has... if I use the Furby cam, I can show you a better close-up. Actually, here's the Furby cam, and there's the M5 Stick. There it is, and it comes with an LCD panel. If you turn it on, you can have chats with it. They have a thing called a UI Flow, which is rather good. You can program it from a browser directly over Wi-Fi, so you can code into this thing without having to wire it up to anything, which is quite nice. The battery lasts about half an hour. It's not great. It has some parallel connections you can use to link to things, but I've just used it because I have a bunch of them. And they're quite fun to play with. So I'll just move you out of the way, Mr. Furby Picture, and we'll keep on going. So yeah, I use C++ to write my code. I'm writing it in Arduino environment, which is the place to write embedded stuff. And the code I'm writing works on any ESP32 based device, although the M5 Stick one has got some pictures on there to make it prettier. And that's what I'm using. If you can get hold of this from Arduino.cc. It's also in Windows Store. You can download it as a Windows Store application. You can get it for the Mac, Linux, and Raspberry Pi. Actually, if I'm honest, why do people say, if I'm honest with you? Because was I planning a lie? No, but if I'm honest, there's a thing called Platform IO, which you can get as a plugin for Visual Studio Code. And that's a really fantastic place to program your Arduino powered devices. It lets you manage your libraries and your code a bit better, and it's altogether a bit more professional. The Arduino IDE, this thing here, is wonderful, gets you started, but it has 1 or 2 irritations about the way it works that I found, well, irritating. But the Platform.io lets you separate out libraries for different versions of your builds and do all kinds of good stuff and do some better version management. So look at that. It's also free. It's a downloadable plugin for Studio Code. It works a treat. It's very nice, but that's how you write the code. And this is a bit of the code that I've written. So that's what we're going to do, write some code for the Arduino IDE for our ESP32, and away we jolly well will go. Now, what have I made? Well, I thought I'll explain to the waiting audience exactly how Bluetooth works on the ESP32. So, and this is true, I made 20 slides of advertise for the device, get the device's reply, find the characteristic, connect to the characteristic, bind event handlers, blah de blah. And I was writing this thinking, really? So what I've done, instead of making you go through all that pain, I've made a thing called the Furby object, and the Furby object does all that for you. If you want to find out how it works, dig deep, go and have a look, ask me nicely, I'll send you my 20 slides, but it's all in there and you can use it. But the big thing about it too, which is the important bit to take away from this, you can control a Furby with this, but any other Bluetooth device you know the protocol for, you can control that too. So you can use this as a bridge to any other Bluetooth stuff. And if you fancy a bit of fun and frolicking, you can actually interrogate a device and see what it says and try and figure it out. So I've made a thing called the Furby object, and that does all the work for you. And if I press the right key on my keyboard, I can move to the next slide. It's all on GitHub. When I was younger, I'm more footloose. I had a loose foot when I was younger. Did you know? Moving on. I found the name Rob Miles was taken on GitHub. Some other Rob Miles, there was another person I called, poor chap, never mind. They got the name first. So I went for Crazy Rob Miles as a way of market differentiation and whatever. Anyway, so I'm on GitHub as Crazy Rob Miles, and I have to carry this cross now like forever. Never mind. In the repository Furby ESP32, you can find all the code. It's all up there. So everything I'm telling you is available for free. And what's more, in my experience, it works. So there you go. That's nice. What I'm doing is basically your code sits in here and it talks to the what's it do me? It talks to the Furby object, and the Furby does all Bluetooth stuff. So basically this thing here does all the heavy lifting, and you can use it to talk to any other Bluetooth BLE device just by changing the characteristics and the services you ask for, and then away you go. So bit of a word about Bluetooth. Now it came out in 2010. That's 10 years ago, 10 years ago, wowzer. It uses the same frequencies as Wi-Fi. It uses 40 different channels. And have you heard of Hedley Lamar, a film star in the 30s and 40s? She's awesome. And she had a lot of the ideas about how to make radio for torpedoes secure, which have been used to build things like Bluetooth. It's really, you don't think of a Hollywood movie goddess having a tech lab, but she did. And she was actually contributing to DoD projects with her ideas about how to make this stuff. Awesome person. Read up on her. She's awesome. Anyway, what happens is that the station, a Bluetooth BLE device, wakes up and it advertises on 3 of the 4 channels saying, hello, I can do this. And any other device can scan for those. And if it sees a service it thinks it might be interested in, it can then ask that service, hey, what can you do? And get back a range of these characteristics that the thing can perform. So what we do is we sort of listen to what's out there advertising. And if we hear someone saying, hey, I'm a Furby, we say, okay, you're a Furby, tell me what you can do. And if you've got the right service attributes, I'm going to connect you and do things with you. So the thing that underpins it is, this click. Now, this is a very important note. That's why it says important note at the top. Oh, such obviousness. The Bluetooth connection only serves as a conduit. What you're going to do is pass patterns of numbers of bytes backwards and forwards. And once you've got the connection, that's what it does. I give it a bunch of bytes with a length property and whoosh, off it goes. And when it replies, I get stuff back. If I don't know what those bytes mean, this thing is less useful to me. That's where BlueFluff kicks in, because BlueFluff tells you all this stuff. So you know what to tell it and what the responses should be. You can, and the person that made the Bluetooth thing work must have sat down and prodded it and got messages back and prodded it some more, and then thought of all the different descriptions for all the noises like motorboat fart. It's kind of evocative. They must have heard that and gone, That sounds like a motorboat to me, and called it that. So you have to know the protocol of the thing you're controlling before you try and control it. But that's just kind of common sense. Bluetooth provides the conduit, and then away you go from there. Now, if you look on the Bluefluff site, these are the universally unique identifiers, the UUIDs, for all the services and characteristics. So this big magic number here is actually the Furby service UUID, and then these are the UUIDs for the two characteristics. There are other ones exposed by the device. You can ask it to, you can do firmware updates, you can do other things and whatnot, but we're just going to use two, one for reading and one for writing, and that's how it will work. There are other ones you can use for firmware updates, but I didn't go there. These work and do what I want, so I'm fine with that. And I just pressed the wrong button. There's Furby again. He's still asleep. That's good. So yeah, we're going to use those two. Now you can make your own Bluetooth example. Like I said, you can do this if you fancy a bit of heavy lifting and learning stuff the hard way. Then go nuts. There is actually quite a good little demo app in the ESP32 distribution on Arduino, which you can use. That was the basis of what I've created, and it's fairly simple. It makes kind of sense. So here's how I use my thing. Go and get the Furby library, which is in my repository. Make yourself a reference to a Furby object. I like having a thing in my software that's called Furby. That pleases me. Okay, so I can make myself a new Furby. There it is. And then this is very reminiscent of how you connect Wi-Fi and other things if you're using an Arduino. You ask it to do something and then you spin while it does it. So this thing says, while you're connecting, I'm going to print dots. Now, this has no timeout. When you're writing embedded stuff, you think, ooh, maybe I should have a timeout. Well, maybe you should, but what would it do when it times out? Is it going to go off and that's the thing about these things, they're single purpose mainly, so it's got nothing better to do than like wait forever. So that I'll turn that on and it'll sit there like forever waiting for a Furby to connect, and that's probably fine. If someone comes in range with a Furby, my code will take it over, which is interesting and possibly a bit scary. But yeah, okay, that just spins. The delay of 500 milliseconds just means it'll not print lots and lots of dots. You also, if you're using an ESP32, you have to put delays in, because the delay is where the rest of the device actually goes off and does things like make the Wi-Fi work and make the Bluetooth work. If you stop doing delays, after a while you get a watchdog timer reset, which is not what you want. It's not a good place to live. So yeah, keep on doing delays. And so my code has got this. So if you wanted to put a thing in there which says, I can't see a Furby, and turns the device off and makes it asleep, then by all means go nuts. Write better code than me. It's not hard. So here we go. Now, this is how I tell the Furby to do something. I've been on the Bluefluff site. I found out that 014 0FF 0000 turns the light on the Furby's head bright red. And so I say, okay, that's 4 bytes. So send that to Furby, and boom, off it goes. So ask my Furby thing to send a message to Furby, red message, and it turns the light red. And so everything you do controlling the Furby is just figuring out what numbers you want to send and then sending them. And it's as simple as that. And so you just keep on doing these things. When you get a message back from the Furby, well, you have to bind a function to your Furby object to do that. So you say bind to incoming Furby messages, a receiver object, receiver function, and that will then run whenever this guy says something. And so now I can get control and do things. My receiver just prints. I've got a little thing called message dump that dumps out all the hex values, prints it out, and then I have a thing called switch decode, which is also in my stuff, and that figures out what you do, because you can twiddle his head, it doesn't mind, and you can tickle him, and other bits and pieces, and you can rub his tummy and pull his tail, and all those are surfaced as messages that I can then decode and use to trigger things. So you could, why not start the build of your big project by pulling a Furby's tail? You could do that. You might not want to. I have no idea why. I use pulling the tail to trigger the shutdown. So here we go. Here comes a message. If it's 8 bytes long and the first byte's 21, that's just the Furby saying, hi, I'm still awake. That's fine. If the second byte is 2, that means antennas move left. If it's 10, that means you pull the tail. And I set a flag called one shutdown, and that will shut the Furby down, and everything will end. That's jolly good. To keep the Furby awake, yes, you have to do this. The Furby will go to sleep to save his batteries. So you have to go in a little loop and say, I'm going to call MQTT to get my more than a second. Then I have to call my Furby. And if you want to shut down, I shut down, and life goes on. So you have to keep doing this. There's my delay of 100 milliseconds just to keep the ESP32 happy. Yeah, if you don't do that, your Furby will shut down, lose connection, and then go to sleep, which you might not want. If you keep on spinning, the Furby will stay awake until its battery goes flat, which can be nice. If you wire some power onto the connections inside the battery compartment, you can go forever. So let's do something useful or ish. I'm going to get the weather with Furby. So I'll wake my Furby up. Good morning, Furby. I'll go to my, hello. I'll go to my program, which is here. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Jolly good. Yes. I'll turn my microcontroller on.
Copy back.
You're back to sleep again, straight away. That's good. Oh, well. Wakey, wakey. I'll have to give him a twiddle in a minute. Let's get my process. That's now waking. So now this is my code running into this. I'll show you that. You get the Furby cam on, Robbie. The Furby cam. There he is. You can't. Otherwise, just because I can see it doesn't mean other people can. So this is my system now waking up. It's saying Furby starting. If I wake the Furby up, if you look at what it's doing, it's running the code we've just seen. So if I look in here, I look in tools, I open up my terminal monitor.
Hi.
He's awake. This thing will be printing dots because it's waiting to see if there's a Furby there. There you go. There's a dot. In a minute, it'll grab. It's found the Furby. It's got a message. And the Furby has said connected. Yay! Isn't that good? Now, what's happening now is that these two are locked together. They're actually talking. This thing's sending the tick to keep the Furby awake. He stopped doing his behaviors because he's under control of this now. You can write your own. You can build your own. If I push his antenna forward, then
let's see.
He thinks it's raining. That's what he thinks. If I push it back,
what have we have here? Too cold.
He thinks it's cold. So here you go. What's happening? If we look at the code, is when I pull the Furby's tail, he'll disconnect. But when I move his antenna, then I've got some code here that just goes off and says, get the weather, please. And then I just build a message, which is one of 3 or 4 different ones to make it say different things. And then I've got one for temperature and I've got one for the weather conditions, and I have a little weather, which more in a second or two. But I hope you understand, and you're all out there clapping now. I can't hear you clapping, but I'm sure you are. The demo, if I pull Furby's tail, let's put the terminal. If I pull Furby's tail, then I can make him disconnect.
Time up.
And down he goes. And so I've got, and now he's back in autonomous mode, which is fine. But I'll just put you back to sleep because Robert's got to do some talking now. Yeah. Yeah, you go to sleep. Yeah. Right, fine. And off he goes. So I'll shut him down. So we've got, the bottom line is we've got 2-way comms and it works, which I find extremely pleasing. In terms of how it works, you've seen it work. You press his antenna, he goes off and gets the weather. Now you could use this, you could use the Bluetooth link and the antenna to trigger anything you like. You can also, when you turn it upside down, you can do things. So you can link any of it. You can make this thing now a controller for anything you want to control. Now I'm using a thing called openweathermap.org, which is a great place to get free weather data. As a free level subscription, you can ask for, I think it's about 100 or so, maybe it's more than that, to get things. And it's all done with web requests, which the ESP32 will do very handily. You get an API key and then away you go. If I bring up my code here, well, no, let's just keep on going to the presentation. So yeah, here you go. I've made a weather client for you because I am that kind of guy. And it works just like the Furby does in that I make a client, I then try and connect to it, and I spin displaying dots. This app key thing here, which I've not put in my slides, who'd have thought, is actually the thing you get from their site. And that then goes off, makes a web request and fetches it back and does everything else and is kind of cute. When I get I just ask my weather client, hey, get the temperature, And if it's less than 10, which it is at the moment, it would seem, I print the word cold so I can see what's going on. I then send the message, which means go say so cold, and push that out to Furby, and away we go. And I look these up in the blue fluff, and pardon me, they just work. Now, here's an important thing to bear in mind. If you try and do this, some of these embedded devices have smaller EEPROMs, and the software that uses Bluetooth and Wi-Fi at the same time is quite big, and it won't fit in their EEPROMs. So try and find a device with 4 meg of EEPROM. If you do find one, and the M5 stick works like this, make sure that you actually, yeah, it's showing an error now because it's not connected. Good. Make sure that you tell it in the partition scheme for the device, no over-the-air updates, because you actually need to have all the ROM. What happens is this guy wakes up and it uses an embedded ROM to bring the code in and start running, and you have to have a large amount of that. So you have to say no OTA, no over-the-air updates, and that gives you room to run the thing. Running Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on these devices wasn't supposed to be possible, but it seems to work for me, so that's good enough. But yeah, keep that in mind. If you find it won't fit in the device, you get a compilation error, just change that and you'll be golden and it will work. And so yeah, so you can now do whatever you like with Furby. And the other thing you might like to do is Furby and MQTT. Now, MQTT, as everyone knows, stands for Message Queue Telemetry Transport. If you've played with it before, you'll know how good it is. If you haven't, it's really good. Okay, it runs over Wi-Fi or serial or whatever. The packets are just dead simple. They're just sequences of bytes. People have different opinions on how good it is, but I like it a lot. And it's supported by the Azure IoT Hub, and it runs on ESP32, and it's a great way to create cheap connected sensors. I'm just plugging in my cheap connected sensor, which is this chap here, another device with the software in it, and off we go. So how does it work? Well, it's a thing called a broker sits in the middle, which is basically a clearinghouse for messages. A sensor node will publish things, and the collector will subscribe, and it's organized in terms of topics. A topic has a name and it's hierarchical, so you can have device followed by Rob's device, Jim's device, Ethel's device, Simon's device, followed by data, or have data at the top, device underneath. Arrange it how you like. You can listen to a topic at any point in the tree, and you can send whatever you like. I tend to send JSON strings because I like that, but you can send blocks of bytes if you want as well. We're going to just do a very simple thing which takes the MQTT messages out of the ether and pushes them into the Furby and goes back the other way. So you can use the M5 stick as basically MQTT to Bluetooth bridge. Now you might want to do that for anything. Okay, so this could work with any device that's got Bluetooth. It will do the same thing. And so I've got 2 topics in my Furby, one called Furby in and one called Furby out. And the idea is that I'll send things to Furby in and he'll go, hello. Now listen to Furby out. When I move the trigger, I'll get the message coming back. That's how it goes. And yeah, you can use it with Azure IoT. It works absolutely fine. You can use secure sockets, and that just works. You need to create a device on the IoT hub and make an SAS key, which is an authentication key. Otherwise, that's how it works. But that's great because you can now give a device a lifetime and do all kinds of nice management stuff. It's also properly secure. There is one limitation with IoT Hub. You can't send device to device messages. So Furby A couldn't send things straight to Furby B. That's an array. I hadn't thought of doing that. That's an awesome idea. You should do it. Just have 2 Furbies for Furby bridge. That would be awesome. So you wave that one. That'd be sweet. But what you can do with IoT Hub is you can make an Azure function which can get the messages in and then send them out to do the distribution for you. That works very well. And both Azure IoT Hub and functions have free tiers. Tiers apparently are very in at the moment. It all ends in tiers apparently. So yeah, IoT Hub, 8,000 messages a day. It's a reasonable number, so you can do things with that. And this is I've made an object for you because I like you. We only just met, but I like you so much. Give your device a name, give the host address, give the username on the host address, give the password, your 2 topics, the listen one and the send one. And then do you want secure or not? I say no, my broker is not using security. And how long to wait before you time out? I put a timeout in. I'm having delusions of software adequacy. That makes the object. Then I can push messages in using it and getting things back again. In terms of actually doing stuff with this, I use an app called MQTTBox, which I will have to start up. So I will do that. An MQTTBox lets you talk to services and clients and whatnot, and it just works, and it's jolly good. I'm going to talk to test client. That looks good. So I'm now talking to test client, and there it is. And I'll put that out of the way just for now. So I've got that lying around. But the idea is that you can type in strings of bytes in here, hit publish, and you can send them out, and you can subscribe to channels from the device, and you can see when the Furby does stuff. So this means that you can now use the Furby on your central heating system, or if this then that, or anything you fancy playing with. And it's demo time again. Okay, let's keep pushing our luck. Let's drop this guy out of the way. Let's go and get the other one. Here he is, MQTT Furby. Now this guy, same kind of code, same kind of thing. He just wakes up. I'll wake up Mr. Furby. I've got this thing running. I'll make a connection to it. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, that's gone wrong. Let's just see what. Oh, you're on port 4. No two numbers the same. So now if I go and have a look on here, this should be hopefully. Wait while you sleep. We don't. I think we do actually. I'm going to put the code into it. Boom. So I'm now going to compile it, which will take a while. I'll have to tell you one of my many world famous jokes. And then push that in, and at that point we'll have our connection, and away we will go. This is the build process for the. I'll keep on talking while that chugs, and then we'll go back and have a look. So just pretend that it's worked, and I'll come back and take things. Now, here's some things to take away from this. MQTT, a large range of devices can send MQTT messages. There's libraries for most platforms. The one I use for Python, C# and JavaScript is called Paho. It's on Eclipse, and you can make all kinds of connected applications, including Furby ones, and it just works. If you want to keep your Furby alive, then wire it to the not straight to the mains. Don't wire it to the mains. Okay, just use I've used a phone adapter, 6-volt wall, a 5-volt wall wart. That seems to work quite well. The Furby also runs quite handily on rechargeable batteries. That also works quite well. So if you've got some rechargeable batteries, use those. The lifetime is quite reasonable. It's arguable that you might get fed up with the Furby well before the battery goes flat. And you can modify the ESP32 code to use webhooks, so you can send web requests and things rather than MQTT messages if you want to do that. I like have we built? Oh, we're sending it down. So it's all going into the machine. It's wonderful. This is being pushed into the wire to my device. So now wake up, Furby. I've got 3 minutes left. 3 minutes left, and it hasn't worked yet. Oh, scary times. Serial monitor. The thing is, you see, oh, it's waiting. So you wake up.
I dream about you now.
Did you? Again? So now it should, in a minute or two, find the Furby. Keep ticking. Any second. There you go. Got the Furby. Now it's finding the Wi-Fi. Now it's finding MQTT. And now we can see messages coming up. And if I go back to MQTTBox, which is my monitoring thing, and I hit subscribe, now I'm listening to things. If I woggle the Furby's head around, then in come my MQTT messages. And if I hit publish here,
I love it.
he sends a message, and I can change this number, and I can get different messages.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, it gets progressively happier, and so you can keep saying, and you can see.
Yes, I need this.
You can see on the right. I'm pointing on the stream to try and be helpful. That's not going to help, Rob. But you can see each time that I send him a message to say something, I get things back to indicate he's finished saying it, and he's still there. And so what we now have is a device that effectively is limited only by your imagination, and you can make it do what you like. And also, this bridge would work for any kind of BLE connection that you want to use. So I'm going to go back to the slide deck, which is where is it? Okay. So yeah, and you can do all kinds of fun stuff with this. So summary: Furby is a nice robot. Toy that farts a lot. It uses Bluetooth BLE to talk to some devices, and you can unpick the protocol to make it do stuff as well. And you can use the ESP32 to make all this work and trigger web requests. The one final thing I will mention, this was actually published as an article in the Hackspace magazine in August this year. If you want to read, there it is. Wow, look at that. The Furby, and this, you can download this for free. So if you want to see a printed version with other stuff, it's all in there. So that's a shout out to the magazine who were kind enough to take something which I'd written and publish it. What nice people. That's kind of me done. So if I stop that and reopen the this thing, I can actually start to engage with folk. But that's kind of where I wanted to be at almost the right time. So if you've got any questions or whatnot, then feel free to if I've said anything which you find interesting, then that's also a thing which you can do. But anyway, thank you for being a wonderful audience. I haven't. You've been so quiet, but lovely. And I hope you found that interesting and useful. And maybe you're going to go off, have a look on eBay, pick up a cheap Furby, get yourself an ESP32, and then go nuts. A Furby burglar alarm would be kind of cute. The guy creeps into the room and the Furby wakes up, and yeah, that would be quite sweet. But there are all kinds of things, and you can use it to control stuff. I think it's still working. It's still working. I do believe. But yes, thank you so much for paying attention. If you haven't paid attention, I hate you. But anyway, that's kind of where I wanted to be and where I am, and there you go. Shouting into the void. Your status is set do not disturb. I'm sure it is. So do we have any questions? I don't know. Show participants. 2. Ha! Really? I don't do. Anybody there?
We're getting some now if you want to go back to the chat.
I can do it. Where is the chat? I think I'm.
What have you done?
The wrong chat. Have private conversations. Oh goodness, this is where my ineptitude starts to show through. Where's the chat, Robert? Somebody guide me to the chat. Okay, so
you had it before.
I did, didn't I? Yes. Activity chat, not that chat. And yeah, the chat sort of. Well, anyway, shout them out. Read them out to me. Pretend like I'm an old fool that doesn't know how to make this stuff work. Because that's how we go. Chat. Boink. Nope. Well, there you go. Well, it's one way of avoiding questions. Why does it sound like show that? Everything. I like Teams, but I don't use it often enough to get good at it. That's the trouble. That's the chat, but not the chat. Right. Okay. So go into here. Show Q&A. Right. Thanks, Rob. Thank you, Edward. Nice to know. There you go. So go. Right. Fine. No one's got any questions. Everyone's happy. Looks like. Tears joke was best. Yeah, I thought so too. I was doing a whole bunch of these. Tears for souvenirs. It'll all end in tears. There was a third one too. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, that was fun. But no questions of any substance. If you actually want to get into this, then start with my stuff. There's also some Bluetooth point-to-point you can do. You can make the ESP32 into a Bluetooth device that advertises services and characteristics. So you can use Bluetooth to link two devices together, should you wish to do that. It's good for low power, and there are some quite nice examples of what people have done. You can also promiscuously listen. So you can use Bluetooth BLE as a kind of primitive people counter, which I've seen people do as well, which is kind of funky. But if everybody's happy.
I think there's a question down at the bottom if you scroll down.
Oh, okay, right, okay. It'll be really hard. Mention ESP32 long-range Wi-Fi. Oh, could it be reverse engineer other Bluetooth devices like Bluetooth key fobs? Yes, you could. Edward says, is it possible to change Furby's voice with your setup? You can download WAV files into the Furby to make it say other things. When the Furby was released, there was a bit of muttering about the fact that it was open, and that meant that you could use this to actually sort of corrupt children's minds by making the Furby say rude stuff, which is technically possible. So I haven't really gone near that. You can do that. You can make it say anything from its repertoire. And the Furby also downloads things from the Furby Connect app to increase the range of things it can do. So you can send some numbers and see what they do. But you're basically stuck with its stock phrases unless you get really inventive. You can use this to reverse engineer other Bluetooth devices like remote controls and whatnot. Things like key fobs for cars and whatnot don't use Bluetooth. They use 466 megahertz comms that is more specialized. With a Bluetooth camera remote control, you could do that, I would think, quite handily. Long-range Wi-Fi. I've not done much with long-range Wi-Fi on ESP32 over and above the usual stuff. There is some example stuff on the Bluetooth ESP32 about a Wi-Fi mesh you can make using HTTP, which might be funky, but I've not really played with that too much. If that helps anymore. Oh wow, over a kilometre using 802. Oh my goodness, I'll have a look at that. That's pretty good. A 1 kilometre range. I mean, the problem with these things normally is if it rains, it all stops working. As soon as you get bad conditions, then you can send LoRa messages across the world on every now and then, but not reliably. So yeah, okay, good stuff. Any more for any more? Otherwise, I have to start singing, and you don't want that. I'm sorry I couldn't. I was looking in the wrong chat. There's more than one chat. Oh yes, there is. Well, thank you very much for turning up. I'm going to finish. Am I finishing 10 minutes early? Sounds like I might be. Okay.
Well, technically, you're also 4 minutes late, depending on which one you go for.
Oh, the early one, definitely.
Yeah, but the final hard deadline I would have had to close this off at is 10 to allow them to see what other interesting and unique sessions there are on.
At least there's no sprinting between rooms and arriving.
Oh, that is nice.
Unless you could do it, you could run to the bathroom and back, or wherever if you want to keep up, get your stand goal for the hour. But okay, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for the kind words, and just go and build something. And don't forget robmiles.com. It'll all be up. It's all up on there. It's a bit out of date, like a week. I'm a week behind. My goodness. But keep following me. I'm on Twitter as @RobMiles. Yeah, keep marketing yourself, Rob. Keep on with that. But thank you. Okay.
Wonderful. I shall end the session now.